Yes, I.
Join Bob for only $25 a year if you have a black-owned business. So you can go check us out, and you can join our Facebook group we have, and all of our channels. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. But okay, so I have Keynon here with me. Keynon?
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hope everybody can hear you. Turn it up a little bit louder.
I don't know if I can turn it up. That's as loud as mine goes.
Okay. All right.
Am I kind of low?
Yeah, hopefully everybody can hear it okay. Okay. So, Keynon, go ahead and talk about a little bit, who you are, what you do. And again, we're talking about surviving gentrification. This is a perfect topic for a realtor like Keynon. But go ahead and talk about yourself.
Okay. My name's Keynon Starks, licensed real estate. I'm going into my fourth year of business, and when it comes to a real estate agent, you usually want to have somebody that's aligned with your goals. So the areas I specialize in is probate and estate sales transactions when it comes to real estate, where I help personal representatives and executors dispose of real estate or solutions with real estate that may be left in their care from a loved one, and also specialize in helping first-time buyers with down payment assistance programs, credit consultant, and resources of the such. Also, I specialize in listing luxury properties. So anything above 500 plus, I specialize in luxury listings as well. And that's pretty much the gist of it. I also have some education on alternate funding, such as contract for deed, Islamic home financing, and things of that nature. And that's pretty much the gist of my specialties.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Yeah, because I was reading too on your Facebook page, and you specialize in doing some probate. You do Islamic
Hmm.
funding, and you're located where?
Hmm.
You're in
Minneapolis, Twin
Minnesota.
Cities
Okay.
area.
And so your real estate license that you have, is it only good in Minnesota, or is it good in any other state?
Just Minnesota.
Just Minnesota? Okay. All right. Wonderful. So, if anybody's in the Minnesota area, and we're going to, the video that, I showed earlier, the trailer video shows you, and you can go back and take a look at it. If you're not familiar with Minnesota, there are 5 major cities, I would say metropolitan urban areas in Minnesota, where there
Hmm.
are, black people and Somalis. There's a large immigration population of Somalis here in Minnesota, and so that's where the Islamic funding comes into play. Talk a little bit
Yeah.
about that, because a lot of people really don't understand how that Islamic funding works.
Yep, it's pretty much the counterpart to Western financing, which you got conventional FHA and things of that such. Islamic home financing is based on Muslim principles on how to trade money and how to sell money and how to pretty much have a transaction without any interest. Interest is one of the big reasons why the debt is the way that it is, because it's pretty much creating money out of nowhere. And if you paid off your whole principal balance, you still have the interest. So the way they're set up, it's a different structure, and it's more financially structured differently. So it has a different structure when it comes to buying a home. But it's a lot to talk about in that subject. But pretty much it's a business arrangement to where, let's just say you wanted to buy a house, but you didn't have all of the money, so you came to me. You said, I want to buy this house. I'll buy the house for you, and I'll put it in a business name,
Mm-hmm.
and you're pretty much co-ownership. So it's part of the business, and you're co-owner as well. And the more that you pay your mortgage, the more ownership of the property that you have.
Okay.
So that's pretty much in a nutshell. But
Yeah, they don't believe in interest in anybody. I don't know that much about it, but I have. We were going to seek through sales learning an account. Uh, Someone out on the East Coast, a company. No, I think it was in Michigan. Michigan, they've got a
mm,
financial group, where they do a lot of that Islamic funding, and
mm.
they do it nationwide. But
And the big
okay.
difference is
Mm-hmm.
let's say the big difference is more that the Western style of financing, they really don't have much invested into the property. They just have, that's the collateral, and they give you the loan for it.
Mm-hmm.
But the Islamic way is they're actually purchasing the home, so they actually have investments into the home.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, let's move on to our topic of the day: is surviving
Okay,
gentrification.
gotcha.
Okay. And it's an issue. It's been something that's been happening now for progressively for what, the past 20, going on 30 years. Where we're seeing our neighborhoods and the housing. First, it started out with I see it as a progression kind of a thing where first I see politically how it kind of started out as a lot of our neighborhoods were just in decline. You know,
Hmm.
back in the 80s and early 90s, right? And a lot of crime or whatever. And then 90s when Clinton got in there and everything with the crime bills and all that stuff that they passed. And we started to see a lot of. They started cleaning up. The police started cleaning up the neighborhoods, but then again, the property values were low because as you know, our in our urban communities, property values are always lower, right?
Hmm.
So then
Yep.
that's a good way for people to come in and gentrify, right? Because and so now we see kind of like this urban sprawl. People are wanting to live more, in the city. Okay, there a lot of the developments and the investments are going into these downtowns and around the downtown areas all over the United States. So I mean, I can't name one major city that it's not happening, but Minneapolis,
Yeah.
along with 6 other cities, rank in the top uh, 7 cities for high gentrification. I mean, like above 50%. You
Yeah.
know, And it's kind of sad because I know, and I know personally, I know people that didn't hold on to, homes that their parents had bought, during 40s and the 50s or 60s, 70s, and those houses have been squandered and they've lost property. So, so what I want to do is I want to share with everybody first an audio of a phone call from a show that I watch. I watch another live podcast called The Black Authority. His name is Jason Black. I don't think that's his real name, but he's out of Shreveport, Louisiana. And if you saw our trailer video, the beginning of that, he's got a video on YouTube too. I believe it's called When Business Fails or When. So this call is not that long ago. It was on October 28th. And it's of a young lady who is from Chicago calling in. Now, he did a video himself called Gentrified. And you can go online to check out that video for Jason. But I want to go ahead and play this for everyone who's watching this because it's a very good call. So bear with me and maybe put yourself on mute for a second, Keynon, and then I will.
Okay. I don't know how to put it.
Yes, hi. This is Erica, and I live in the city of Chicago.
Hello, Erica from Chicago. What's on your mind?
Yes, the reason why I'm giving you a call is, number one, I appreciate your broadcast tonight because it is very important. I am 34 years old, and I used to live in a city on the west side of Chicago. I remember there was a nice building on Hamlin. It was at least 12 stories. 12 units. It was owned by a black couple. However, the couple died, and they left it to their children. Their children, unfortunately, they sold that building. They was offered $100,000. $100,000. This was like back in the 90s. And right now, they turned those units into condos. And so right now, those condos, they cost $2,500. So right in that area, it used to be predominantly black. A lot of those houses over there, they used to be in black parents' hands. However, the children, their late 80s, early 90s, they quickly sold the buildings. Now we have Asians living over there, which I never thought they would be over there. You have your Indians, and you have, of course, your white people. The reason why I bring this up is because some of us, by us not having that mindset of leaving inheritance behind, when a white individual comes to us and say, hey, I'm going to offer you $100,000 or $200,000, we are quick to buy it. I mean, we are quick to get it because we may have bills or something to that nature, and we want to pay it off, not thinking that, hey, my mom and dad work hard in order to get this building, and they left it for me and for my children, because some of us don't think that we could take the money that we rent out and we could use it to invest in other buildings to watch it grow. With that, it really hurts my heart to see that, because we look back and say, oh man, I remember how this used to be a black community. Now we have all these other type of people here. They increase the rent, and now we have to move even further out west or out south. And that's what they have done a lot over here in this area. But when they move blacks, they move them out into the suburbs where public transportation is hard to get to the city. Because, see, here, like in Naperville and Schaumburg, white people, they're tired of the floods and things of that nature, and they want to move closer to the city. So the best thing to do is individuals who they know that they could just say, here's $100K, we could give it to you, and they would take it without question, And then next thing you know, they don't have a place to stay, and they are forced to move out into an area that they can't get to. And that white family who had a house or so, they sold it, and they're now living in that space. And in that space, the rent is like $2,500 or more. I know in Hyde Park, which is a nice area, their studios go for $1,100. And you have the University of Chicago over here. It's not too many black people that live in that area when black people used to dominantly live here. Right now, they're trying to expand Hyde Park to South Shore, which is where I currently reside. And in the last 4 years, my rent has went up, dramatically. But I do plan on staying here so that I could continue to build my own, as a software developer, my own application to put it on Google Play and Apple Store. So the reason why I'm saying all this is that continue to keep up with your good work.
Is it done?
But at the same time, I really want us black people respect what you have. If your parents is passing down something to you, keep it. Fight for it because you want to leave something for your future. White people and everyone else, they.
But now I want to go ahead and let's have this conversation because it's very important here. Let me just bring you back there. So, okay. So, Keynon, let's talk about properties in Minneapolis. And
Okay.
First offhand, let's talk about probate. Now, I know that's one of your specialties, you said. How do you help out families with probate?
So when the probate process occurs, it's usually when a family member or... Can you hear me?
Turn it up a little bit louder if you can. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Maybe I got to move close. Can you hear me like that? That's better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. Probate is the process where a loved one or a family member or pretty much anybody passes away or becomes incapacitated. Am I saying that right?
Yeah,
incapacitated.
Yeah.
Okay, yep, and then they can't take care of their property anymore, and they pretty much, it goes through the courts, so that if they don't have a will, it goes through the courts, and it is according to the will, or if there's no will, the courts just next of kin, kids, or, family member, whoever's the closest of kin. And pretty much it's the process of the courts dividing up the estate. So it can be real estate, it can be cars, it can be clothes, anything of possession. I specialize in the real estate part of it. So people may have inherited a property, and whether it's sell it, whether it's keep it, whether it's how much, or if it needs repairs, if it needs to be cleaned out. It's a lot of different situations that a person can be in once they inherit a property. You never know, really what is not expected. Sometimes it's expected, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's an out-of-town person that may have passed away and you didn't know until the last minute, and you get the letter in the mail saying, hey, we need you to show up in court so we can, separate the property the way that it's according to the will, or if there's no will, you're the next of kin, and it goes down the line. Mm-hmm. So I come in and I just provide my expertise on whether they want to put it on the market. I can help them with options on putting it on the market, whether it's cleaning it out, doing some repairs, or selling it as is. Because sometimes it may be a fire to the property or a lot of damage to the property, and they may just need an investor to come in and just buy it cash out right away. They can pay off their mortgage and they can move on with their life. And a lot of times there is a debt with the property, so if the executor or the personal administrator wanted to keep the property, then they will have to assume the debt as well, or if not, they can sell it.
Are you finding a lot of cases where you're having a lot of people, having to deal with probate, and specifically black people in the community that have to deal with probate?
Somewhat, not as much, because we're not a lot of, our population isn't the big portion of homeowners out there, So a lot of the African American community are renters. So when they pass away, they don't have a lot to pass along to the next generation. But I have ran into quite a few African Americans, and the majority of people that went through probate before. So yes, it does vary. But it's more of the property owners that I'm looking for. I don't really deal with people that has like stocks and bonds or just a lot of money in their probate. So I usually deal with people with just real estate.
Right, right. Well, I've had to deal with probate
Hmm.
because, as I was telling you earlier, the house that I live in now, this is a house we've had in our family now for over 30 years.
Hmm.
And my dad bought it. Wasn't the house I was raised in, but it's a nice little cute house. It's in Minneapolis, and
Hmm.
it is very, it has, nice craftsmanship and stuff to it.
Hmm.
So, and I can, so anyway, make a
Yeah.
long story short, we didn't, at the time of the, my dad had died, and then my mom died a few years later, and
Hmm.
she's trying to give me the house and blah, blah, blah to the bank, but that's for another podcast. Those family issues came up involved in it.
Yeah,
I didn't want,
I understand. I
we
understand.
all had our own houses, but and then I moved away, lived in Texas for a while, and I lived in some other states, and so I just I always made sure the mortgage and stuff got paid, the bills got paid, bailed it out
Hmm.
several times, the house got hit by the
Yeah, yeah,
tornado. You remember the tornado
yep,
in
yep, yep,
2011, so
yep.
I had to deal with all of that. So, but
Hmm.
recently I just got possession of the house, and it's a keeper. It was a nice,
Good,
wise
good, good, good.
investment, and I see all the houses around me. I mean, they're going for these astronomical prices. I mean, for
Hmm.
real. I mean, like
Yeah.
one level, 2 bedroom house is going for $200,000.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I'm just thinking about, but then there's a lot of black people that are on the north side, and you're right, they're renting. I was looking at something. They just did something. I think it was KSTP or one of the news stations where they were showing the home ownership rates, and I guess it's some company, property development company in
Hmm.
Georgia that
Hmm.
owns, I guess, almost like 50% of the rental properties that sit in the north side of Minneapolis. Did
Yeah,
you see
I think the
that?
name's Blackstone or something like that.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yep, yep.
And I know that if they're not getting Section 8, that even though if they're renting them houses, that's got to be an astronomical amount of money. I mean, like the rents are just ridiculous in
Hmm.
some of these cities now. I mean, like I
Yep,
was looking at
yep.
something today, like in Atlanta, the average 2 bedroom in a nice area goes for about $1,800. In Minneapolis, it's like $2,500. It's just and the wages have not kept up to that. So there's no, what we're seeing in our community is we are seeing a lot more homelessness in our
Yeah,
community. Would you agree with that? And
yeah,
that
yep,
gentrification is a
yep.
reason
It
for
is.
that.
Yeah, it is. So I mean, I think we should also define gentrification to the viewers because a lot of people may not know what that means.
Okay. All right. And so let me go ahead and put up my presentation to show them, just in case you guys didn't catch it on the video. But what
Mm. 'Cause-
gentrification is just a second here. Okay, so just bear with me just 1 second. You can keep on talking. Um,
Okay.
while if you want, while I try to get this going here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just good to give them a because there may be people that don't understand it, and it's a really
Yeah,
big subject. People think that it's just okay. Well, they're moving all the black people out of the neighborhood, or they're raising up the rents. Well, it's a lot bigger than that. It's a really
it is a
big,
lot bigger than that. It is a lot bigger than
yeah,
that. It's
and
very serious.
you know, and it's also comes with the opportunity gap and the wealth gap, you know, and the increase in properties and not the increase in wages. So it's a lot of things that can put that into perspective that we can talk about, you know.
Exactly.
We can start with we can even start with rents, like not even talking about homeowners, just renting, you know. That's a whole nother level of owning. When you own, you know, who owns next to you, who owns on your block, you know. When you're renting, it's not really, you don't really, not too really worried about who lives next to you and things like that, or who's mostly in our community, you know, for the most part. So
Right. You're so right.
it, it's a really big subject, and we can start little, very
All
little
right.
and simple.
Okay. So, what is gentrification? Gentrification is. I gotta find my control here. Here we go. Gentrification is a process of renovating deteriorated urban neighborhoods by means of influx of more affluent residents when they're moving in. Okay, so that gentrification itself causes a lot of issues, but for today's conversation, we're only going to focus on how it is displacing black people. Okay, black people here in the United States, and it's happening in so gentrification often shifts a neighborhood's racial and ethnic composition and average household income by developing new, more expensive housing, businesses, and improved resources. Okay, so I mean, you want to add something to that, Keynon?
Yeah, I mean, just from my, you know, I'm not an expert in this field, but I do understand what's happening, and I have been, you know, paying attention to it and seeing it in my community, and it's it's a situation. It's definitely a situation. You know, I kind of look at it from both ends. You know, I try to be level-headed with both of it to see the sense of the bigger picture. So on the consumer side, you know, it's like, what happens when you live in a neighborhood where, let's just say, for just throwing out numbers, my rent's 500, my neighbor's rent's 500. I'm staying in a 2-bedroom apartment. It's affordable. I like it, but it's just in a very highly, you know, African American or minority community. Okay, that's my situation. I'm living there. I'm affording it. I'm not too really worried about too much. But what happens when and I'm a renter. Let's talk on a renter's perspective. What happens when my owner sells it because he wants to liquidate his portfolio? Or if he feels like, well, the rents I'm not getting a lot, this isn't a really good investment, and he can sell whenever he wants to. He doesn't have to let you know, he has to let you. It's tricky. So they can sell anytime they want, pretty much.
Right.
So what happens when he sells and the new owner comes in and they say, well, rent's only $500. I know I can get $800, but it's you don't mind paying $500 because it's not really a lot of houses. A 2-bedroom, it's like, okay, well, it needs fixing. Nobody ever comes to. It's like, whatever. You don't really trip. But you got the new owner that comes in and he says, okay, well, I'm going to raise your rents up. You have no choice but either pay those rents or leave. Now, before we go to the next subject, what happens if you leave? Where are you going to go next? You won't be able to find another $500 apartment like that. So either you're going to go homeless or you're going to go live with a family member. So that's displacement right there. That's just one piece of the puzzle, you know, and that's just from a renter's perspective. You want to add on to that?
Well, yeah. I mean, you know, the problem is that the housing costs are so expensive. The rates of the interest rates are going up higher now, you know, with the recent, you know, and so now, you know, they expect that the economy is just going to go further down on the decline, you know, in 2019. And we are seeing that with a lot of stuff already, you know, layoffs and, you know, the stock market crashing and all this other stuff. You know, I mean, you know, the economy just hasn't been good. America's broke and, you know, America's trying to bring it back. I don't know if Donald Trump can or not, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, we're too far in debt for one thing. But that's a whole nother issue. However, we suffer more. The housing costs have gone up so astronomically high. I don't know, you know, I mean, I think about it already. I mean, the housing itself is not even worth that, especially in Minneapolis and some of these other cities like New York and, pretty much all these cities now. I mean, unless you're like down in Texas, I would say would be one of them, or I would say even Las Vegas is a good value for, than paying what you would pay in San Francisco or Los Angeles. But, there are places that do have still have a little bit more value to them. But anyway, so displacement with the homelessness and people moving also far away from the communities that they were raised in, because they might not, they can no longer afford to live in these prime real estate development areas. That is an issue right there. Is very, when I think about that, it makes me angry and it makes me sad. All at the same time, because of the fact that for years we were told our communities were trash and too much crime and who would want to live there. And on the news you would see stuff with them showing, how bad our neighborhoods are. And they still do. They still do. Yeah. However, why is there such this big influx of all these people wanting to live in our communities? If our neighborhoods are so damn bad. And you know the reason why. I'm going to ask you, what do you think the reason is? I know the reason why. But why do you think that so many of them have wanted to move back?
Just from my opinion, I think that one, it could be being closer to the city. The city life is getting a little bit more popular. Two, it could be that the affordability, it's a little bit cheaper to buy a home here than it is out in Apple Valley, let's just say. And I think those will be the two biggest ones. And North Minneapolis and South Minneapolis, the fact that they really only show the negative parts about it, but they are really thriving and positive communities. I mean, they only show on the media the negative things, but for the most part, I think it's really become a better place as a community because we're coming together and we're starting to see the value of coming together. And even though there is a lot of bad apples out there, even in some of the good communities, it's just they do it a different way and they get away with it. But so in here, like once somebody gets shot, of course it's on the news. Of course people are sad and mad, but it's more publicized than, okay, well, it's a new black business that opened up, or this kid went to an Ivy League college and got a full scholarship. They don't show that on the news because it doesn't get the ratings. But ideally, I think that they know that it's going to be a huge transformation with the urban areas. And that's a good thing. But it's also a complicated thing because, what happens when your rent goes up? What happens when they increase the value of the neighborhood? What happens when, they want to remodel your house and make it better, but they're going to charge you more? Or would you rather have it, the same? So it's in a situation to where sometimes we can afford them upgrades. We would rather have, just keep it like it is, Mr. Landlord, and don't raise my rent. We'd rather do that than to have that nicer place and pay more rent. But maybe some people do. Some people are okay with that. But we got to think about the majority of people. Some people don't feel the effects of gentrification because they're pretty much settled in their ways and they have their job. They're good. They haven't moved. They've been there for 5-6 years. So they're kind of on the outside looking in. But those that's inside of it, they can see how they had neighbors here. Now they're gone. Now they're in a shelter. And the person that moved in is a white person. And they bought the house. And now they're an investor. And they moved out. And they're like, okay, well, when is it going to be my turn? When am I going to be able to buy that house? When am I going to be able to, invest into things like that? And that comes down to the wages and the income and the opportunity. So where's the opportunity for these people that's living in these areas where the gentrification is coming? Because if they have more opportunity, maybe they can buy the house instead of being kicked out because the rents are raising, or they can buy their own duplex and, be a landlord. And now they're getting the rental income. So it's the opportunity gap and it's that wealth gap, and then it's the whole.
This is, you can't wait any longer to invest
Right.
if you haven't invested now, because it's just going to increase and get higher and higher. So, I think we're going to move, and you're starting to see it now. You're seeing, the millennial group, and I don't know what that next group is called after them.
Generation X.
Gen X or whatever. That group of kids are living with, my age group. Okay, they stayed home, and and you're seeing families where you got brother and sister and their family, and you're starting to see more families come together because the cost of the living.
Yeah.
To live in these places is so expensive.
Yeah. And so even with that subject, like, I see that, back when I was growing up, I used to see like the Asian community and say, hey, they have like 12 people living in their house. What are they doing? They're crazy. But if you think about it, what if we did that? What if we, if one person bought a house and it had, 6 bedrooms, and we said, okay, everybody's going to rent a room until they be able to buy a house. And everybody's going to buy a house. We all pitch in or do whatever we got to, but everybody's going to buy a house. Or we're going to, and then, once the next person buys their house, they can house more people so that they can keep their rent income low until they buy a house. If we did that, we will have more influence out here. But those are ideas that we don't improvise on. We don't like living with a lot of our people. We'd rather stay with somebody else. But, that's another difficulty, is that the opportunities that we can create for ourselves that we're not even tackling,
and save
and,
money.
Making aware.
And save money. That's the big thing here. You cannot create wealth without being able to invest or save money. But now, the crisis here that we had too, and we were kind of talking about it, is that a lot of us had homes that we could have held on and passed on, and we still can today, and that's not being done either. Yeah. And it's a lot. Or like on the call or the audio with the young lady that that you heard from Chicago, she said that they sold the property, they undersold the property for $100,000. That's happening too, where you're underselling your property. You need to go get and I'm firsthand, because I've been a property owner, for since I was 26. So that's been a long time. Okay. Since I was 26 years old is when I bought my first home, and so I bought multiple homes in other states. So I mean, it's like there is a greatness to being a homeowner, and a home is an asset. It is it's an asset. If you have a business, you can always put it up. You can get money out of a home. That's not the best thing to do too, because I know people that did that with the high interest rates in 2008, and they end up losing their homes. This is right here in right here, in places like over on Grand Avenue and places, where they had $400,000 and $500,000 homes back then. Now the homes are probably worth what, $700,000, almost dang near $1 million over there. And it's like, wow. I mean, just think of how much that mortgage would cost, just to have something, you can't even afford to live in your own neighborhood anymore, because now, you're going to have to pay a $4,000 and $5,000 payment, because of the cost of the property.
So the reason why I also took probate as my niche specialty is because, one, I see that the baby boomers are the biggest living generation now, and soon to be surpassed by millennials. But right now, they're the largest living generation. They were born in a generation where they bought their houses, they worked for their homes, and that was the dream. They had to buy a house, and a lot of their generation bought homes and bought multiple homes. And since they are the largest living generation, they're holding a lot of property. So as the generations turn, and there's going to be more millennials than the baby boomers, cause and effect in the real estate market. And this is just my opinion and what I'm predicting. So first, let me talk about the importance of Black ownership and having a will. Okay. Because that's where I come into play, where a lot of people don't have a will and they need the advice. But if you pass away and you have a will and you have your property in there, the property pretty much transfers to without having, or the kids or whoever, without having to go through the probate process. Right. The probate process, you're going to need attorneys. You're going to have to pay court fees, filing fees, and all that.
Expensive. Some of the most expensive attorneys. Go ahead.
Yep, and it's going to tear away at your. It's going to tear away at your equity if there's any in the home. Mm-hmm. Second, as a homeowner, especially for the minority, our people are so important because once you buy a property, you put it in your will. If anything happens to you, it can stay. It has a higher chance of staying in the family, staying in the bloodline. So what that does for, let's just say, the millennials that's, going through this housing crisis and the affordability crisis is that's an opportunity for them to have a home, Mm-hmm. And if our parents did that for us, if the baby boomers in our community bought homes and did that for us, we would be a little bit better off with having our investments in our communities, mm-hmm. So it's very important that we take that into consideration when you're thinking about the next generation. Mm-hmm. And, in 2018, I think over half of the homes were purchased by millennials. So we are waking up, we are getting it, and we are seeing the importance of home ownership.
Right. And, to have the stability and knowing what your mortgage is going to be every mm-hmm. month too, it's an mm-hmm. asset. So, but I want to see more Black people do it. I know it's mm-hmm. going to be more tougher with the interest rates going up and the high cost of housing in our communities. Mm-hmm. However, we're going to have to come together as a group, and families are going to mm-hmm. have to start coming a little bit more together. Okay, exactly. Because for them to come up with that 10% down on a piece of property that costs mm-hmm. $300,000, that's $30,000. Okay.
Yeah.
And so so anyway, so it's an important topic, and I want to see mm-hmm. our communities just simply be able to come back together.
Exactly.
Because our communities are being broken up, and that's I just it's hard, and I travel. Mm-hmm. When I travel and I go to communities like St. Louis and mm-hmm. And just all over, I see, and even in Dallas, Texas, But the one thing that I mm-hmm. want to talk about here is the reason why we're seeing it so high now too is another reason is. You've got the cost of the housing mm-hmm. that is a lot cheaper, where they can come in and versus going in some of their neighborhoods like the young lady is talking about in Hyde Park, how it's so expensive because Obama and a lot of the people lived in Hyde Park in the Chicago mm-hmm. area. Okay, but anyway, make a long story short, my point that I'm making too here is that we traditionally, since the reconstruction of Blacks moving from the South to the North and moving into areas like Philadelphia, Chicago, Detroit, Minneapolis, okay?
Yeah.
When we moved in, when our families moved, I got a still shot on you. I don't know why. But when our families moved...
I'm finna plug up my phone.
Oh, are you changing something? Okay. But, there you go. Okay. But when our families moved... from the north to the south, we moved and we mm-hmm. lived in the prime real estate development areas of those major cities. Okay, so from people who might have lived in the country town of I shouldn't even say that, but like say East Texas, and then they moved to Dallas, right? Okay, we lived in prime areas of redevelopment close to downtown, and that's one reason why we're seeing too this big increase of gentrification. I mean, there's less space because there's more people, and we lived in prime areas. I mean, just talk a little bit about that, and even what you're seeing in the North Minneapolis area, like you're seeing with the expansion of the domes and the
mm-hmm.
what do you call it? The like that near loop side. Now they call that the near. Can you believe they call that what they call it? They don't even want to be called North Minneapolis, so they got a new name for that area, which is called, what's it called? Loop, near loop, or
the North Loop?
Yeah, North Loop. That's a new name.
Yeah, so I'm not exactly sure what your question was. Can you rephrase it again?
Living in prime real estate development areas. I don't care where you go. If you, I don't care if you're in Austin, Texas, on the east side. I don't care if you're in Dallas on the south side. I don't care if you're wherever you go across the nation. Traditionally, historically, black people have lived in prime real estate development areas. Would you agree with that?
Hmm. Good question.
You never thought about it?
I don't think I know enough about it to say yeah or no. I mean, I haven't traveled enough, honestly.
You gotta travel more, my brother.
But in my city, I mean, when you say prime real estate, do you mean or do you mean the property itself?
I'm saying the area, the location.
Mm-hmm.
So, with real estate, the first thing is location. Then the second thing is property. That's how I always thought about real estate. So, like, you can have the same house, same type of house that sits in, say, Edina, Minnesota, which, versus North Minneapolis. And that house might be worth $500,000 more, okay, than the same house, okay? So location is number one. Number two, I would say, then becomes the property itself, right? Would you not agree with that?
Yep, I feel you.
Okay, so that's what I mean. So we live, like, if you think about where North Minneapolis is located. Now, I don't know. You moved to Minneapolis, what? When you were how old?
I was 3.
Oh, so you've been here a while. Okay.
Yeah.
So, so basically, to think about the north side, the projects that were sitting there on Olsen, okay, before they tore them down, and they got the new, housing over there. That's area has been a big controversy. Okay. So, what I'm saying is, that is prime. Don't you think that's prime real estate development area? Just think about it. Most black people did not live way out in these rural communities.
Okay. So look, we don't have much time, so let me just get a couple things off.
Okay.
So with that, back in, I want to say like the 1900s or something like that, when they first laid the plats down for the city, they pretty much judged each neighborhood. Okay, this is under quality, this is okay quality, this is prime. North Minneapolis, South Minneapolis, this is like the slums. They called it the slums pretty much. But now, it's becoming prime because of the location and all of that. But second, that's what I really think that we should end this on what can we do as a people to fight gentrification? What are some practical tools that we can give to the people listening right now to help combat?
All right. So let's end this.
Right.
Because this is something we're going to have to talk. This is a discussion we can have and talk about it for hours.
Yeah, exactly.
We're just kind of visiting this subject right now, but we are going to have more real estate realtors on to continue this discussion. I just want to let everybody know that. Okay. What we can do now, you go ahead and answer that question. Okay. Since you are pressed for time, you go ahead and answer that question, and then I'm also going to show, you give your contact information for people to reach you, okay?
Okay. Yeah, so one thing that I think that we can do is, as renters and homeowners coming together, we can, do like the others did before us and open our homes to our family, with a plan that we're going to have you get on your feet, save up some money and buy a home. Second, we can start buying homes. That way, let's just say if 10 people bought 10 homes on one block, only way that they're going to leave their home is if they stop making their payments or if they pass away. If they pass away, then they can pass on the property to the kid. Now, the kid stays there and is staying in the family, so that's still one black-owned home on the block. So that's another way that we can do it. It's just becoming homeowners and putting the property in our will and pass it on to our kids. And another third way is for us to really stay active in legislatives and what's going on with the system and what laws are in place that's keeping us down and standing up against them, fighting against them, writing to our Republicans or our Democrats or our state representatives and letting them know how we feel and coming together and standing up on housing issues, which NARAB, a group that I am a part of, we also fight for advocacy for minority homeowners as well. So NARAB, look into that. If you want to join, you're a professional, you're welcome to join. Like I said, my name is Keynon Starks, real estate agent with Keller Williams. Contact number 612-367-7529, or you can reach me on my website, keynonstarks.com. And yeah, we can definitely talk about this more if you want to in the future.
Yeah.
And those are my my 3 things that I think that we can do practically to anybody listening. Do one of the 3. Either open up your home to family members to help them get on their feet, or just start to purchase your own home and pass it on to your family to keep it in the family, or just be having for the laws and things that are being passed.
Yes. Okay. And then also, I want to mention here too. Now, Keynon, you are a Bob member, is that right?
Yep, I believe so.
Okay. And so, under our Bob membership, which is only $25 a year, Keynon will give you some type of free service if you were to consult him. I don't know what that would be. That could be some type of fee that he may charge or whatever, but some type of discount or free service that he would offer you if you wanted to join the Bob program. So we're going to end on that note, and we're going to bring this topic up again because we didn't nearly get to talk about everything we needed to talk about gentrification. But it is going to be a subject that we're going to focus on heavily, and we're going to talk to other professionals like Keynon. And yes, we do need to get out. We need to invest in a lot of different things, and housing is one of the things that we do need to have an investment in so we can pass this on to generations. So I want to thank everybody who's joined us today. And Keynon, if you want to go ahead and sign off, and I'll talk to you later, okay? Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.